I will now introduce Lesson 12. As was mentioned before, nouns in Biblical Hebrew have no case endings. Though case endings did exist at an earlier stage of the Hebrew language, what is sometimes called Proto-Semitic. You can see that in some of the sister Semitic languages such as Akkadian and Ugaritic, that they still have case endings. Arabic does as well. But in Hebrew, the case endings went away and ceased to function. Accusative case, as we mentioned, is marked by et if it's a definite direct object. Though if it's indefinite, it's only by context, and they don't always put the et on as far as that goes. Now, instead of a genitive case, Hebrew expresses what is in effect a genitive type relationship by a syntax known as construct. When two words are united so that they express a qualified idea, the first or the governing word is in the construct state, whereas the second word is said to be in the absolute state. An example of this is the expression sus hamelech, and whereas it could be understood a horse is the king is a horse, much more likely it is a construct relationship, meaning the horse of the king. The word sus then is said to be in construct, whereas hamelech is the noun in the absolute state. So whereas in other languages such as Greek you would indicate the of relationship with a genitive case, or in English with a word of, Hebrew does it by this construct relationship. Here's another example. Haya davar Adonai el Yonah. The construct is here, the word of the Lord was el to Jonah. The word of the Lord was literally, or you could say came to Jonah. And word, davar, is the noun that's in construct, and davar and Adonai is the absolute form that completes the construct expression. Or yet another example, Shamar et mitzvot Adonai. And this would mean he kept, Shamar, et, direct object marker, mitzvot, the commandments, and that's in construct, the commandments of the Lord, Adonai. Now, whereas the noun that is absolute at the end of a construct chain does not undergo any changes, the noun in construct may have changes to it, depending on the nature of the word and what it characteristics it has. So what I'd like to do now is to go through the ways in which nouns change when nouns go from being absolute to construct state. Rule number 1. Nouns that end with segol-he will change to sere-he. So the word for camp, machaneh, will change to machaneh. So machaneh is a camp, But Mahane Yisrael is the camp of Israel. Rule number 2. Feminine nouns that end with kamatz he usually become patah he in the construct, though with an occasional sagol he. So, for example, the word for law, Torah, in construct becomes Torat. So, law becomes Torat Adonai, the law of the Lord. Another one of these typos. That should have the dot above the vav, not below it. Or the word kingdom, mamlakah, in construct becomes mamleket, with a siglet style ending pattern. It has a T at the end, but it's a sagol tav rather than patah tav. And so if you want to say a kingdom of priests, it would be mamleket kohanim. Rule number 3. Masculine plural, hirik yod mem, and dual ayim becomes sarayod. So you have horses, susim. But if you want to talk about the horses of the king, well then susim must go into construct, and that's susei, susei hamelech, the horses of the king. Or if you have a couple of horses, susayim, well, the two horses of the king would also be susei hamelech. So you cannot tell the difference between the two horses of the king and simply horses, the horses of the king. They are both identically the same form. Now, with addition of the construct, the noun paradigm is now complete. So when you talk about nouns, you can talk about the masculine form, but then also the construct form. So sus, as it turns out with the form sus, the masculine form, masculine singular form, the absolute and the construct are the same. So it's sus and sus, whether it's in a construct chain or not in a construct chain. Whereas the feminine form, susa, changes in construct, mer to susat, which is mer of. In the plural, susim becomes susei, horses versus horses of. Susot does not change, it stays susot, so that's either mares or mares of. And then the dual form, susayim, whether it's masculine or feminine, is the same. And the construct is susei, the same as the plural construct. With the word for hand, the word hand is yod, but in construct the vowel shortens to a patah, which we'll mention in section 12.4. So it becomes yod. And then the plural, hands, is yadot, and the propretonic kamatz will reduce to shavah. In that case, you get yadot with a shavah under the yod. And then yadayim, a pair of hands, becomes yadei. In this case, the construct of the dual is different than the construct of the plural, because the plural happens to have a feminine-looking ending. It actually is a feminine noun. Same thing with the word kingdom. Mamlakah becomes mamleket, but then in the plural it becomes mamlakot, and then mamlakot, this kamatz will become propretonic reduced to shavah in the construct. And if you happen to have a pair of kingdoms, a form which I don't think actually ever occurs, It would be mamlaktayim would be the form that you would expect. And the construct would look like like a masculine plural ending if that were to be in construct. But since that form probably never occurs, is probably a moot point. Other changes that take place with construct nouns has to do with the vowels. A kamatz in the final closed syllable is going to reduce to patah. So here you have yad with a kamatz, but if you want to talk about the hand of the Lord, yad Adonai, then the kamatz will become a patah. The long A will become a short A. And so that's kamatz in a closed syllable. If you have kamatz in a open syllable, what happens in construct is that in effect the accent has shifted downstream, and thus the kamatz becomes propretonic, and according to the propretonic kamatz and sere rule, it must reduce to shava. So Navi, prophet, becomes Navi Adonai, the prophet of the Lord. And then same thing with the word davar. You're going to actually get two changes. So here you have two different kamatz, one in an open syllable and one in a closed syllable. And so when you change davar word to davar Adonai, the word of the Lord, the first kamatz will reduce to shava because the accent has shifted downstream and it's become propretonic. The second kamatz will become a patah according to the rule of kamatz in a closed syllable will shorten from a long A to a short A to a patah. Now in a few words, sere in the final closed syllable will change to a patah. This is not particularly common, but it does occur in the word elder. So zakein, elder, becomes zakan ha'ir, the elder of the city. The other thing that happens is those diphthongs, AW and AY, will contract to Holam Vav or Sere Yod, respectively. So take the word for death, Mavet. If you want to talk about the death of the king, well, instead of Mavet Hamelech, you get Mot Hamelech. That AWE combination is unstable, and in the construct, the accent shifts downstream, thus making this kamatz propretonic, and, well, it makes the whole thing unstable. And when the accent shifts, it contracts down to a O vowel. Same thing with house, bayit. When the accent shifts down, when it becomes construct, you get Beit HaNavi, the house of the prophet. And again, that AY or AYI combination is unstable, and it contracts down to a single long E vowel. A secondary vowel change may occur if the internal vowel reduction leaves two vocal shavas in a row. So for example, you have the word blessing, Be'rakah. Well, the first thing that you would do is, well, here you have a kamatz hey, followed by, and when you make it construct, that has to become a patah t. So that's first step. But then step two, you have a open syllable kamatz. Well, that has to reduce to shava. So the hypothetical form with a star by it, because that means it doesn't actually occur in the real world. You have two shavas in a row, but then to resolve that, the first one must become a hirik. So the word blessing, barakah, in construct ultimately reduces down to berakat. We'll continue this in the next video.